Welcome to A Day in the Life of a BA. The aim of this initiative is to equip people with the knowledge, terminology, and understanding of core BA tasks and challenges across different industries. So each month, IBA Ireland is inviting BA professionals to talk about their day, the day in the life of a BA. And it's to see exactly what a day in the life of a BA in this particular industry would be like. So whether you're considering moving into business analysis or you're already working alongside other BAs, or you just want to get a general understanding of what it's like working in that industry, hoping today will give you that clarity, confidence, and a shared language so that will set you up for success. And today we have an amazing speaker, Risi, who is going to talk about her day in the life of a BA in the context of insurance. So throughout the event, if there's any questions, please pop them into the chat or use the Q&A tab, and we will leave some minutes before the end just so that we can answer those questions. So let's dive in and see how a BA turns these complexities of insurance into solutions that keep the business moving and customers protected. So without further ado, let me hand it over to Risi.
Thank you very much, James, and I'm happy to be here. Great to meet everyone. So let's just dive in into the session. I hope we're able to view my screen. Okay, so I believe we should be able to view my screen. Okay. So before we proceed, I just wanted to say thank you to IIBA Ireland for the opportunity to share a little bit of my knowledge and my experience working within the insurance ecosystem. So today we're going to be looking at the life cycle of the insurance journey, as well as how we as BAs, as business analysts, basically give our own value into whatever it is that we're working on in there as well. Okay. So a bit of background. I'd like to introduce myself for a lot of us that are not familiar with me. My name is Risi Agbaje. I'm a certified senior business analyst. I'm a consultant. I work with a consultancy firm within the financial services industry, so mainly banking and insurance, but predominantly in the last few years, I've been working in the finance insurance domain. My experience spans both, done projects within the personal space as well as the commercial insurance space. I have worked on a variety of change and transformation initiatives, from process optimization to delivering a shiny new system, migration and things like that. So I've looked at from customer journey redesigns to ensuring that in terms of regulatory compliance projects to complex system implementation and process improvements as well. Also, on the side, I'm also the founder and the lead trainer at BA Insight Edge, where the major purpose of this platform is to empower, just like we're doing today, aspiring business analysts with practical industry-ready skills. I am, again, like I said, certified by IIBA, and I've also got certifications in Salesforce and Salesforce AI Associates, as well as I've also attended the MS, the Microsoft Power Platform training as well. So I'm a Power Platform consultant as well. So moving on to the next slide. So I would like to talk about the life cycle of insurance in general. Okay. So before you start thinking about, so if you're already a BA, a business analyst, or you're an aspiring business analyst looking to go into the insurance space, it is very important that you think about the end-to-end journey. So what does this mean? Basically means the policy life cycle that any insurance, be it from a personal perspective or from a commercial perspective. So if you look at an insurance company, they either provide insurance to somebody like you and I, personal, or to organizations. So your off licenses, your big shops, the supermarkets that you see, the banks, and all of that, they all do have to have insurances as well. Big organizations do have, insurance coverage as well, because there are risks associated to having these businesses, and they need to make sure that not only the organization is protected, but also their customers, their clients are also protected as well. So regardless of the journey, regardless of if it's a personal or a commercial journey, right, that we're looking at, the life cycle is still the same thing. Okay, the first life cycle, the first step of the life cycle is the product development and pricing. So if an organization, insurance company is going to bring a new product line, offer a new type of, so back in the day, there was nothing like cyber insurance, but now there is cyber insurance. So they need to basically develop that and price it accordingly. So there's that journey. So it's on its own, it's a journey on its own as well. There's key elements that needs to basically be factored in. Then moving on to the next, which is the marketing and sales. So we have this nice new product line, this that we can offer our clients, be it personal or commercial clients, right? We already have all of the details, what risk it covers, in what domain it covers, what it doesn't cover, what it's going to cost, based off of different types of risk. That has already been done, because that alone, it's a journey, and it takes a lot. Then think about how would we then basically distribute this into the market. So we are now thinking about the marketing and sales. So you hear them say distribution, basically. And after that, so once that is now being distributed into the market, people are aware that there's this new product line, right, that I can insure myself in. Then we then think about the underwriting. How do we want to write this? What are the things to consider in terms of this particular risk that we're looking to cover? Right? What are the things that, what determines the price? What determines the coverage? What is out of coverage? So for instance, if you buy a car insurance, right, they could tell you you're covered only in the UK, but or some of them could say, oh, if you decide that you want to drive to France, you are covered, but under this circumstance. So the underwriting, basically, that is the key thing. That is the foundation of that, which is what we really, as personal people, we basically, we consider. So what covers me and what doesn't cover me. And if you look at it from a commercial aspect as well, what covers them and what doesn't cover them. So all of that is basically also another journey on its own. It's part of the life cycle of insurance. Then the policy administration. After we have then developed this product, we've marketed it, we have customers that's now, we've done the underwriting, we have customers that's basically bought this risk, they are now covered by this. How do we then, it then becomes a policy, right? From underwriting, it becomes a policy. So when you are yet to take that, when an organization or a person is yet to take on that risk coverage, that risk coverage is still basically that, we are still trying to underwrite it. But as soon as you sign the dotted line, or an organization signs the dotted line and there's agreement, there becomes a policy. That policy needs to be maintained. Basically, it needs to be maintained. And then moving on from that, when we then look at when I say policy maintenance, what does that mean? So for instance, oh, I want to make changes. Oh, initially we had just one car, but now my son has turned 16 and I need to add his car onto my policy because he's not able to have his own insurance and things like that. So I can basically, so it's called endorsements. You're making changes to the contract that you have. So you're making changes called midterm adjustments, or generally in the market it's called endorsements. It could also be that you've basically the insurance company, or you have said, what, I don't want to further with this insurance, with this risk. I don't want to come off this risk and all that. So any changes, either we want to terminate or you want to terminate, whoever wants to terminate, everything is contained within the policy administration. How do we administer this policy moving forward, basically? Okay, and also that also things about them, things like renewal and things like that. So that is then ongoing. How do we maintain these policies ongoing? And then we then think about the billing and payments. This is very key, isn't it? How does the insurance company take out their premium? And when you have a claim and things like that, which is going on to the next one, right? How do you get payments in that as well? Okay, so also claim management. There's also a journey as well, regardless of whether you have whatever type of insurance that you have, basically, either personally or even as an organization, you have to think about the claim management, the claim process that follows under there as well, which is also key as part of the life cycle. So because of time, I'm just going to kind of like move up a bit more, just kind of quicken things up. Then there's reinsurance. What does reinsurance mean? Reinsurance means whereby an organization basically passes on the current risk they have into, maybe fully or some of the risk is being taken over by another insurance company as well. So they've signed on to a risk and they've decided, you know what, can I do a reinsurance as well? So it can be inward or outward reinsurance. So they can take up someone else's risk, or which the person has signed, or they then also pass on the risk that they've signed as well. So that's also there. There's also the life cycle of finance and accounting as well. So we want to look at, okay, so what's coming over the 1 year or 12 months or however long, the coverages and all of that, do all of those accounting and finance bits and everything that's got to do with, like tax and all of those bits and bobs there. And then finally, the very key one that they also need to ensure is also compliance. Compliance and regulatory reporting. Very important. Insurance industry is highly regulated. So anything an insurance company is going to do is highly regulated. So it is very important that we are thinking about regulation from a business point of view, from a business analysis point of view. In as much as, yes, you're trying to do this, implement this very shiny new application, this new object, are you thinking about the compliance? Are you thinking about the regulatory aspect? Does it meet regulation? For instance, does it meet the accessibility WCAG 2.2 regulation? Does it meet the Lloyd standard? Does it meet this? Because there are going to be like data reporting, there are going to be so many reporting. It is highly regulated. So we have to ensure as business analysts that we are thinking about that. Whenever we are drafting our requirements, we are thinking about that as well. So, like I said here, if you look at the life cycle, which is 9 different life cycle in its own right, they've also got supporting critical. Very important. The important word there is critical supporting processes that underlines them as well. So moving on to my next slide. So I'm going to be going into these life cycles one after the other, and then we then look at from a business analyst point of view, what is your role within this this life cycle. So if you look at the product development and pricing, right, the process is basically, the way the process works is you have to do like a market research. You define the coverage because you are working with business, you are working with SMEs, you are working with product owners, you're working with people that know what they're doing, basically, right? And then you are defining, you're understanding what is in the market at the moment, how is it implemented in the market, and things like that. And then you then move on to the coverage, right? This product, what is it going to cover? The terms and the conditions. I think I already mentioned this earlier as well. The actuarial pricing as well. What is the pricing? What is it going to look like when we begin to roll this out? Then the regulatory filing, and then the system configuration. What exactly? Again, regulatory is very important, right? I need to ensure that is always, I'm considering that at every point in time. Then as a business analyst, what do? I'm gathering the requirement for new and existing products, right? So I'm looking at the products. Is it that the current product, it's either that we have the current product that we are trying to optimize and make make it look better, right? Or we are reducing some, we're adding some more terms and conditions, we're adding more coverage and all of that, or it's a brand new product development and pricing altogether, right? So you need to gather the requirement for that. Then you then translate that actuarial models into business rules. So you will have the pricing, you have, if it is this, it is that. If it is this, so you would have all of this, you would work with the underwriters to put together these, they will put together, so because you don't have that knowledge, the underwriters have that knowledge, and then and as well as the compliance team and any other team that is, or assurance team, whatever it is that they are called in the organization you're working with, you need to translate it into a business rules. Because once it gets configured in the system, you need to be implementing these business rules into the system as well, right? Then you are then looking at as well, analyzing the competitor products. Right? If I have any other XYZ organization that is also offering this kind of product, what do they offer? So I'm not just focusing on just what I am working on, but also what others are doing as well in the market to ensure that we have that competitive edge as well, because that is very key. Right? So define, and then as a business, you're then defining the algorithm as well as the underwriting rules. The rating algorithm, basically, you need to define that underwriting rules. You're ensuring that what are the things that determine if it's going to be high risk, medium risk, low risk, or whatever it is that the model has basically been stated in there, right? And then you then look at the support regulatory documentation. Every product line must have there's a regulatory requirement to it. You cannot beat that. So when you're thinking of working within insurance, right, you need to think about the regulatory requirements as well. So this is something that you need to be thinking about, and the documentation that's required. Is it that it's required that they need to always have every month send a regulatory document or whatever report to XYZ, to FCA, to this and that? All of that, you have to ensure that the documentation is also in place as well. And then finally, you then map your product features to system capability. What exactly is the product. What are the major product features? What are the key things within that product that is being developed? And then we then think about it from a system. When you begin to think about the foundation of the system to the system, what can the system do? Can the system do X, Y, Z? And all of that. Okay. So moving on quite quickly, I'm going on to marketing and sales. As a BA, again, I've put the process here: lead generation, quoting. So if you find yourself in a marketing and distribution type of project, right? Because that's the journey they're looking at, that's what you're thinking of, that they are thinking about. You need to know the process involved when it comes to marketing and distribution. They start with the lead generation, the quoting, application, need analysis, then binding, coverage, then issuing the policy. So all of that is part of the distribution process. And as a BA, you are looking at, okay, if I'm working on a project that is optimizing or looking at or implementing a new channel, I need to start thinking of analyzing the sales channel. What are the different channels sales channel needs, right? So if it's via an agent, so it could be that a third-party agent is one of the ways that the organization sells insurance. They offer insurance to customers. It could be via a broker, or it could even be directly. So you can go into a website. So if you think about it, you can go into a website and basically just book and just apply for an insurance, but you can say that you want to go via gocompare.com. That's an agent, or you have to go through maybe you have a broker that does everything that's got to do with your insurance needs. Then you go to them as well. So you improve the quote to bind process, because that's the process and the processes and the tools. So you're looking at what is the current state and how can we improve the current state, and what are the tools that we are using, how can we optimize that, or if we are using something that is manual, can we then introduce automation into that as well. You then define the requirements for the CRM integration, because this is the customer. This is a customer relationship management info. It kind of links into customer relationship management. You're then defining the requirements for that as well. So in as much as, yes, we are distributing this, but also we need to be able to manage the customers as well. So you're thinking about the requirements for that. You are streamlining the application data capture. What exactly do you want to be able to capture from these different channels? And then you're then supporting, again here, regulatory documentation, and finally analyzing of the version, the conversion rates and friction points as well. Okay. When you're looking at it from an underwriting point of view, you are then defining, again, I've put the process there when it comes to underwriting. Before any insurance company will underwrite any risk, they will first assess that risk as well. So they will assess the risk first, then they review it if it has to be manual or automated before they can decide, okay, do we want this? Do we want to put this in place or not? Right? So they accept the reject or they modify the terms. So if you agree to the modification, fantastic. If not, then they reject it. And then finally, they then issue out the policy. Basically, as a BA, what are you doing? You are refining requirements for underwriting, workbenches and rules. You are analyzing the risk data sources. So where is the data going to come from, internal or external, right? To be able to determine the risk, whether it's high, medium, or low. You are improving the workflow automation. You are then thinking about things like the external data. If we need external data to be able to monitor, especially if it's an organization, you want to make sure that, okay, financial crime, you are thinking about, we need to make sure that, that's covered. And so there are different applications where you can get data into the organization, into the architectural landscape of the insurance company you're working for, and then integrating of that to have enough data to inform your risk assessment. Then support development of automated underwriting, and then document underwriting guidelines digitally so that anybody can always go back into there as well. Excuse me. So policy administration, I think we talked about this earlier. This is a major domain. This is if you look, if you go into the market job board now, you see that when it comes to policy administration projects, they want you to have idea on what you're talking about, right? They want you to have, everybody wants you to have worked on it, even though. So you need to deeply understand the policy admin system because it is highly complex. So it is important that you have an understanding of how the policy admin system works, because regardless of the journey, they need to basically, whether it's open market, for instance, for commercial, either it's open market. Under each of this personal, so if you look at personal insurance, there is motor, there's life, there's gadgets, and all of that. And then if you look at from a commercial, there's either open market, there's delegated underwriting, there's reinsurance. Regardless of these different journeys in there as well, because these are different journeys as well under the umbrella of commercial, right? they feed into one policy system. So we need to make sure that this is something that you have an understanding of. You have to understand how the policy admin system works. So it's not a project that they just get someone without a knowledge. They always ensure that at least you have a good understanding of it as well. Document complex workflows for endorsements and renewals, because this will happen for different, it's always different. Especially when it comes to commercial, it's always everybody's insurance or coverage is bespoke at some point, right? So you need to basically be able to think about all of the old scenarios and the complexities of those scenarios and ensure that that is implemented within the policy admin system. Then you then analyze the process bottlenecks. Okay, for instance, manual, I put here manual renewals, right? Why do you want to do manual? Is there a way to trigger an automated renewal? What needs to be done in order to be able to trigger that renewals? What needs to be true for that to become for it to become a renewal, and all of those bits and bobs as well. So these are the things. This is where we then come in and then look at all of those processes. Then we then define requirements for billing integration, because it's also part of it. So because the policy admin system is always integrated with the billing system, so you get like the financial data hub, Oracle, and things like that. It's also always also sometimes, so depending on how the organization thinks about their future, right? So some organizations will say we don't want point to point, meaning applications to application integration. Can everything go to the data lake? Can it go to Snowflake? Can it go to the data warehouse? And from there, we can pull everything we want. And I think that is the forward thinking. That is where people are going to. But some organizations, some insurance companies are still doing point to point. So meaning that they're integrating their policy admin system to their billing system. They are integrating that same system to their broker portals. They are doing the same thing to document generation and all of that. Customer self-service. And that can be a bit difficult to manage, to scale up in the future if you think about that downstream. Then again, we're not thinking about the data integrity across systems. You need to ensure, how do I ensure that my data, right, is up to date on all systems? So this is also the disadvantage of having a point to point. You have to make sure that you go to all of those systems and make that update. But if everything is contained within the Snowflake, within the data warehouse, right, everybody can easily get an update from there, because that will be the source of truth and all of that. For that, because of time, I'm just going to kind of rush off. Now, the next one is billing and payments. What do you think about from a business analysis role? You analyze the billing cycles and the payment plans as well. You integrate with billing systems and payment gateway, define commission calculation rules. All of this needs to be implemented whenever you're doing, if you're working on a project that's basically on like a finance project within the insurance space. How to improve collection processes. What is the trigger to let the team that needs to know, right? The team that needs to know that, okay, we need to process this, or this is now overdue, and things like that. Then support the agent commission as well as then finally again ensure regulatory compliance. Ensure what? Regulatory compliance. Number 6 is claims, right? Out of 10 policies, probably 8 of them or 7 of them will come back with a claim. So we need to make sure that we are also catering for that as well. So we define the requirements for claims management system. So when you say CMS, that basically means a claim management system, basically. And then we then improve. You're thinking about, how can I improve the first notification of loss channel? So when somebody has as an incident, there's been an incident and they want to report, there's always a channel. So when you see FNOL is the first notification. How do they notify the insurance company that there's been a loss and then they want to make a claim? Right? Somebody not even want to make a claim, they just want to inform you. Right? So for instance, you have an accident, you're not the one at fault, you're not making a claim, the person is the one responsible for that. But I still need to inform my insurance company to say that, oh, there's been an accident, it's not my fault, and all of that. So we look at those, how do we improve those channels? Do they have to sit on the call for God knows how long? Or can they just do that via the system, via the web, on their phone, right there, and then they take a picture, 360, they do all of that, done and dusted. Right? How easy is the agent that's working on our behalf or that's selling insurance on the behalf of the organization able to basically report a claim? Then we're now streamlining the assignment and the workflow. For that, we are integrating with any fraud detection rules. So for instance, is this really true reclaim? Can I verify that this policy system, this policy actually is valid? Can I verify XYZ? Very key. Define the rules for estimation, right? So how can I then estimate that, okay, this is what it's going to cost for auto, for property, for this and that. You will be working with the business to define those as well, and then support the documentation and image capture. So there's a car accident, maybe they want to do a 360 picture of that vehicle, of that property, and things like that, of that claim leakage that they're trying to prove. They should be able to do that without having to send a manual picture via email or via the post, basically, and also improving of the reserving process as well. Number 7, what else are you supposed to be thinking about? Another journey is the reinsurance. What are we thinking about in insurance, right? So there are 2 different types of reinsurance. It's either a treaty or a facultative as well, right? So you need to understand what these means. What do you even know about reinsurance? Have a good understanding of the process. Then understand the terms, the treaty terms and the data requirements. Very important that you understand that. And then you then define the requirements for this reinsurance administrator. It would have its own system as well, because it's not that we are directly managing that policy. We are now basically, we are taking on somebody else's risk, or we have passed on our own risk to somebody else as well, from an insurance point of view. Then automate any, reporting, facilitate data exchange, as well as, so for instance, am I going to have to wait for God knows when? Or is it that how soon do I want my data? As soon as they key in something into their system and it triggers, does that need to come to me? Or do I have to wait till the month end, or until they then send me an Excel spreadsheet and then I start doing that upload and things like that? Or do I just want something? So having that conversation, how do we then facilitate the data exchange within insurance as well? Then support recovery, tracking, and settlement processes as well. So these are the key things that you as a BA will be looking at. Number 8 of the journey is the finance and accounting. Again, if you look at the process for finance and accounting, they start with premium reserving, they go to premium accounting, they go reserving, investment accounting, and all of that. But from a BA point of view, right, how do you then analyze regulatory impacts on processes and systems? What's the impact? And like I said, you have to always, whenever you are implementing, you have to always think about the regulation. Think about, don't just write a requirement for the sake of writing the requirement. Also, another thing I always tell my mentees is that when you're drafting a requirement, don't just write that. You're not an order taker. You're not there to just, you're not a waitress or a waiter to just take requirements. No, you need to probe. You need to ask questions. You need to ask them the why. Okay, so yes, I want X, Y, Z. Why? What is the business value? Right? I want this data in this system. Okay, what will you use the data for? Is there any downstream impact, or are you looking to share that downstream? Is there any other way that system downstream can get that data? So what is the regulatory impact on this requirement? Basically, is there one? If there is none, if there is, what is it? So you must think about your requirement gathering and whatever analysis you are doing from a business value point of view, right? What are you looking to deliver, and why are you looking to deliver it? Don't just take orders by, okay, we want this, okay, yes, fine. No, don't do that, because eventually you're not saying there's going to be issues down the line. Okay, our stakeholders, they want everything. They want everybody. If you're the one, you want 5, 6 different brand new cars, but you can only drive one at the same time. So why do you need that? Okay, then you then define the requirements for compliance reporting, so the data capture meets. You have to ensure that it meets regulatory needs, you're supporting implementation rates and form changes, and automating any complaint tracking workflow. All of these things you have to think about from that point of view. Then finally on the journey is the compliance and regulatory reporting. Very mindful of time. I think I have 10 more minutes. Compliance, right? So integrating core systems with general ledger, very important, right? Again, like I said, we might decide we want to do this point to point, or we are doing it from a data lake, right? Then ensuring that accurate data flow for reserving and reporting purposes. Then we also automate the financial data reconciliation. We should be able to reconcile. So you are thinking about that from a business analysis. So if you are working on that kind of process, we need to make sure, because you might think, oh, the finance aspect of a business does not concern a regulatory body. That's a lie, right? It is their business as well, right? So we have to ensure that everything is reconciled, looks the way it's meant to look. And how do we as BAs support that process, that fulfillment of that journey? How can I be sure as a BA that I am given the I'm able to fulfill the financial data reporting that needs to go to FCA, for instance, that needs to go to PRA, for instance, or goes to Lloyd's, for instance, right? And then we then support the investment tracking requirements as well. If there's any investment, if that's what you're working on, we can also be working on that as well. I've just put this slide in as well in terms of the lens. What do you do as a BA? What's your lens? When you look at the 9 end-to-end processes that I've just mentioned, right? What's your view on it as a BA? You're thinking about process stakeholder. So you join a project immediately, you're thinking about your stakeholder mapping. Who are my potential players? Underwriters, the agents, the claim adjusters, whoever, and their needs and interaction within each of the processes. Within each of the 9 processes, what are their needs? What are their how do they want to be communicated with? Then also don't jump to your to be. A lot of people are here. Oh, since we are getting a brand new, let's forget about the assist. No, assist first. Understand the reason why the current process and document it as a BA, right? And the reason why you are, why we are, they do whatever it is. There's a reason for every process step. In as much as it might be a long process, but there is always a reason, and you understand who is dependent on the output of that process, or who is involved in that process. That then helps you to then understand when you are then thinking about the to be and they are talking about the design. You can say, oh, I think we've not catered for this particular team or that particular reporting or this particular process as well. So you document your current processes and define the future state process enabled by technology/change. Then your data flow, you need to think about data flow, especially when you're working on a insurance is a highly complex business. So you need to think about the data flow. For instance, you are mapping how data moves between systems and departments, from application data to the policy admin system to billing to general ledger and all of that. And then you, as a BA, you are then identifying, oh, I can see from this assist, these are the pain points, these are the bottlenecks, this is why it takes so long, these are the delays. Oh, this is going to go. If this person goes away and they go off 3 weeks off, that means that this is not going to move. What are the compliance risk that is involved? What are the customer friction that we can have because the customer keeps calling us and things like that? Can we try and resolve this? You identify this so that it is when you're now talking about your requirements. When you say how does your requirement, what does it fulfill in terms of the business? Oh, it is helping to reduce customer friction. Oh, it is helping to remove delay and all of that. That's part of also the business, the overall business benefit that we are trying to get to, right? And when you're driving your requirements, you translate it into your business requirements. So you have a business requirement, which is usually always very high level. It then goes on to your user requirements. So here you are looking at like the stakeholders themselves that are using the system, and then that breaks down into your system requirements, right? The application requirement, which then falls into functional and non-functional requirement, but also data as well. So I've put here, although I've just put functional and non-functional, but also you also need to think about your data requirements as well, because very likely you will need to be filling some data requirements in there as well, the process chain. Then you're thinking about the rules and logic, document your complex business rules, whatever process you're working on, and then the user experience. And then finally testing. You're validating the new change systems and processes meet requirements and functions correctly within the complex insurance ecosystem. Okay. Here I've just basically given an example, real life example. For instance, when you're saying requirement gathering, right? You're capturing fields for cyber policy insurance. You are doing process mapping. You are streamlining. For your process is basically streamlining the borrower ingestion. You are bridging the business and technology. You are translating rules, rating logic into what? System rules. So they have this rating rules on an Excel spreadsheet. You're taking it off of the Excel spreadsheet and you're putting it into a system and getting AI to help you think about that and all of that. So you're implementing that. It could also be that you've got system testing support. So you are leading the UAT test for the new claim system. I'll just jump this digital transformation. You are supporting AI powered pricing engine. These are the things that, as a BA, that you actually do in insurance. In terms of data and reporting, you are structuring the claims data, for instance, for Lloyd's reporting and all of that. Because of time, I'll just move to the next one. In summary, as a BA, you need to basically understand the full life cycle, policy and claims. You need to understand the full policy life cycle and the claims life cycle. And then you then map your stakeholder priorities. And then you design requirements for with compliance, audit, and regulation in mind. Never forget that. Never forget that. And then we're then thinking of how can I now bridge my legacy system with my digital tools. So you have a system such as Lotus Notes, for instance, right? And then you now have this low code, no code, what's it called now, policy admin system such as Guidewire Cloud. How do we bridge these these two systems. What can we do? And all of that. You are communicating clearly across the technical and non-technical groups. You need to make sure that you're not using jargon when you're speaking to your stakeholders. So again, if you've done your stakeholder mapping the right way, you know when you have to tailor your conversation to who your stakeholders are. So if I'm talking to, for instance, the sponsor of my project, I'm talking in terms of value, business value. I'm talking in terms of the benefits that we are going to be getting at the end of it. I'm using diagrams. I'm showing, they don't need the details. Very high level. But when I'm talking to somebody that's going to be working on the system, they need details, right? So you have to make sure that you are tailoring your conversations and communicating clearly who you need to speak with, and you're talking in terms of technical jargons. You can with your developer, because yes, they understand that. But when you're talking to your stakeholders, you cannot do that. Then you then prioritize your delivery. Here, you're going to be working with the product owner most of the time to then prioritize, okay, this is what I'm going to pick up based off of business value. You are speaking with business, and business is telling you, yes, this is what I need right now. This is what is going to give me business value right now, because I have a lot of renewals that is happening and I need this system in place, because I need to cut off the timeline for the renewals from 6 months to 2 weeks. And this is your business, and making sure that you're adding value and reducing risk. And then also you're facilitating a lot of workshops to align business and tech as well. Whatever you're doing, carry business along. Very important. I see BAs go away and just do whatever it is and all that. No, have every conversation, make sure that the business is informed, your product owner, your SME, your stakeholders, right? This is where stakeholder management basically comes into play, right? And this is kind of like your toolkit. You're thinking about the policy lifecycle maps, just like something that I've shown there, underwriting and claims rules catalog, the product configuration templates, the bordereau templates, regulatory traceability matrices, and other things, right? I'm just very mindful of time. I've got 4 more minutes, and I like to keep to time. So what are the challenges that you will face as a BA, right? They will give you vague requirements, or business is even uncertain what they want. They're always changing their mind, isn't it? Stakeholder misaligned. You can be in a workshop and they're basically arguing. You have to ensure that you're facilitating the right way and know what you are trying to get out of that session. Legacy systems and fragmented data, we all know about that. Then you will get a lot of legacy systems in insurance. Then balancing regulatory with user needs as well. But as a BA, right, I've got this diagram here where there's a change, you are modifying, you're transitioning, you transform, you shift, you adjust. You have to be flexible, right? So we add value by clarifying ambiguity through probing questions. You have to ask the questions. Why? What are you trying to achieve? Do you think? What have you thought of? Questions like that, using is it the six W's and an H, basically. And then you are facilitating workshops for alignment. You are creating structured models, so your beautiful user stories, your process flows, your data mapping, all of that. You're collaborating with your team as well, with the developers as well, to ensure that whatever it is that you are building is fit for purpose. And I put here, much of a BA's value lies in clarity. If you are not clarifying from the get-go, right, and you're 100% sure, and you get business to sign off your requirements, there's going to be a problem, because that would ensure that you're reducing misinterpretation and creating an alignment. When we do the clarity right, it means that fewer change requests, smoother go lives, and happier stakeholders. And my day, typically my day, this is just a view of my day. Sometimes in the morning I come in, I check my emails. This changes. This is very fluid. Now 8:30 I speak with the developers, so you can to accommodate some of them. I have stand-ups. Then if there are, for that day, if there are like Scrum ceremonies, so that sprint planning, things like that, I would attend those demos and all of that. I have to be at demo so that I can explain what's just been built to the business. You have to ensure that you are attending all of these as well. You will have workshops with business stakeholders, such as underwriting, claims, finance, whatever team that you can think about, assurance, legal. You have whether you are either eliciting requirements or you are process mapping. It could be one of those, basically. And then, or rather, it could be that whatever it is that you have done previously, you're basically presenting and walking them through that as well, which is what I've got 12. It could be basically, I want to put my head down. I just want to do what work. I can block my calendar to just do some of the work, or the review system changes with tester. I can have some time with my testers to say, okay, what have you done? Does it look right? Okay, that looks fine. That's past UAT. This looks like, yeah, the test scripts are fine. And then obviously, between the day I'm chatting, I'm clarifying with various stakeholders and all of that. And then at the end of the day, I'm updating Jira, Confluence, SharePoint, whatever documentation. We do documentation in Agile. A lot of people say, well, it's a lie, there's documentation, right? It's not just as detailed, right? But we have to ensure that Jerry sign off. You are covering your back as a BA. Cover your back. Get approvals from business, right? Put down exactly what they've said. If you have any approval email, save that approval email, attach it. As simple as that. Then stakeholder wrap up, end of the day, status says I'm giving my PM, this is what we are up to, or my product owner, this is what we've done today, this is what I've accomplished, it looks like this, and all of that. And basically that's sometimes my day. What are the common tools, right? We have Jira, Confluence, Miro, Visio, that. For tips for a newbie, learn the business before the system. Business first before system. Never start with a system, because otherwise you just dog yourself. Make sure that you're learning the business first. Always ask the why, not just keep documentation lean, but and not just write but make sure that you're keeping it clean, lean but clear. Build stakeholder relationships. This is very key. Build relationship with your stakeholders, be it systems and business stakeholders as well as the developers. They are your stakeholders too. They make your life easy. They will shift things around if you build relationship with them. And then what are the career paths that you can decide that, okay, I want to be from a junior BA to a lead BA to a BA, then a senior BA to a lead BA. I want to be a product owner. I want to go into the domain specific and all of that. If you still want to become a BA and all of that, right? And then I put here, I said, BAs have options. We do have options. It's either we are moving into product ownership, leadership, or even regulatory and operational domains as well, within insurance as well. The foundation we build with data and process knowledge is transferable and is of high skill. And I believe I am, okay, I still have 4 minutes to spare. I'm actually doing good. So thank you very much for having me. James, I think that this is the end of my slide. If you want to get in touch with me, you want to follow me on LinkedIn, that's my name there. And also I have a page on BA Insights Edge as well. I think I need to keep that up to date. But yeah, so questions and answers. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now so that I can see people's faces.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Risi. That was really, really interesting. Even to see the whole end-to-end life cycle and to see exactly where you're involved. You seem to do a lot as a BA, which I think a lot of BAs would agree that we tend to do a lot, and we mix with different types of people or stakeholders, as we call them. But it was nice to see the exact kind of processes that you do in your day-to-day work. I'm sure everyone would agree that it has been a very valuable session just to get an insight into the insurance industry. And one thing that I'm keeping in mind is regulation. Regulation is key. So always keep that in mind. Let's see, do we have any questions? There was a question in the chat. So the recording, guys, will be shared. It will be shared approximately about a week after the event, and it will also be on our YouTube channel. So anyone who attends will receive that recording. There's a question here. So great insights. Does the BA role in insurance industry have to be savvy with actuarial assumptions?
Sorry, can you ask that again?
Yeah, I'm not sure I quite understand that question. So does the BA role in insurance have to be savvy, I'm assuming tech savvy, with actuarial assumptions?
Well, it all depends on, whatever you're thinking about, right? There are teams that do with the actuarial, isn't it? They've got the actuarial teams. So it is a possibility, but so for instance, this insurance A might decide that, yes, they want to be savvy, they don't mind introducing AI, they want to do X, Y, Z. But insurance B are kind of, risk averse. They don't want to, what they don't know yet, they're going to take their time. So it differs per organization. But as BAs, we need to be on top of our games when it comes to technology, basically. We need to know what technology is out there and how it functions, basically. So yes, I think the answer is yes. But eventually it's a choice of the organization you're working with.
Okay, I think you might have answered this one, but which software or tools do you mostly use? For example, Excel, SQL, Tableau, Power BI?
Okay, so it depends. So if we are thinking about data analysts will use SQL, Power BI. But for me, I'm a both functional and tech BA. So I'm not a data analyst. So what I do, I use Confluence, I use Jira, I use Miro, I use Visio. Excel when it's required. So it all depends, basically, on the organization that you're working. So if it's a big organization, obviously you're thinking about things like Confluence and Jira. They use that. They use SharePoint to store their documents. Microsoft, some of them might decide to use Miro, some of them use Microsoft Visio to do their process flowing and all of that.
Cool.
I hope that answers the question.
Diving into AI. So how can AI be used to leverage BA skills in a day-to-day activities?
Oh, yes. So you bear in mind that, yeah, it can. It frees you a lot of time, right? So artificial intelligence frees up your time a lot in terms of you want to do requirements. So you, for instance, I'll give you an instance, right? So you attend a meeting, a workshop, and you record that session. You take the transcript and you upload that into Copilot that is agreed, that is allowed within that organization. It can basically break down for you the tasks that you need to pick up. That frees you time. That frees up time for you to focus on what is being discussed, ask questions, think through, because you know that there's something taking the notes, and then you can then turn that notes into actionable items that that AI can help you with, i.e. Copilot can help you with and tell you, you need to do X, Y, Z, and all of that. So that can be used. And then again, take it further, you can use it to capture do your requirements, user stories, acceptance criteria, even the things that you're not thinking about. But bear in mind that you cannot 100% rely on it. You need to check it. It's not going to be 100% correct. So in as much as it's reduced the timeline that you use to do XYZ, to review XYZ, but also make sure that your eyes are on that. Don't rely 100%. Don't be lazy, right? You need to, because this is still in development. Don't be lazy. Go through the stuff. Make sure that it makes sense, because sometimes it will not make sense. And I'm sure we've all seen that. We've all experienced that. So it is freeing up time for us, definitely.
In terms of data sources, so what are third-party data sources which can be utilized to decide the insurance premium for a customer while purchasing insurance?
Okay, so it depends. So when you say what's it called now? So okay, so for a personal insurance, right? You want to buy you just buy a brand new house, right? And then you buy the house in a certain area of you've just purchased the house in a certain area, right? That's not is low risk, or let's say high risk. That all those kind of data. So if you even go on Google yourself, you type in your postcode and you need the data, the policy information data and things like that, it will tell you, right, whether or not, because these are things that inform the prices of the house that you buy. So for instance, you go and buy a house of a million, 3 bedroom for a million, and then you then go and purchase another house for that same another 3 bedroom in another area that's like 200,000. Obviously, the insurance premium is going to be different because one area is deemed safer than the others. So there are external, data sources. But if you're looking at it from a organization, from like a commercial aspect point of view, we could get data from, for instance, Dun and Bradstreet that tells us about an organization abroad, how they're doing in terms of their financial crime. You could get from, if it's from the UK, you could get from the company house. Everything you need to find, you pull it from there. If you want to know about, there's always a financial crime register. If there's any financial crime or anything, also we could also pull that. So there are different sources. It's not just one. There are different sources that an insurance organization might want to pull to then decide and to determine your premium, or even whether or not they want to take that risk, basically.
The next question is, okay, so if someone who doesn't have experience working in insurance and they're a beginner BA, is there a way to get into the sector without having that like prior knowledge?
So what I always advise is have a good understanding. You don't have the knowledge, but you can understand insurance processes, which is why we've got one of these sessions, isn't it? To help us think about that. So try and understand, do a bit of research, spend some time, understand the insurance journey and the different processes and things that could come off that, one. And then secondly, understand the BA life cycle as well. So we've got the BABOK that helps in terms of the knowledge areas. That's also and the task that you need to pick up. So if that's kind of like your Bible, and then you have an understanding of from a career point of view, that's where you want to told where you want to go, and all of that, and then just get a junior role, right? A lot of people want to jump into a £800 a day role when you don't even have experience for a 500 pound a day role. So start little. You can get in for junior role, have a good understanding, work, get your hands dirty, do the work. Don't be lazy, do the work, get an understanding, work extra time. You can do that for 2-3 years, and then you can jump from that organization to a better organization. And that could give you a good 20-30K salary increment, basically. So you have to be strategic in your thinking.
Great advice. In terms of mind mapping, so do you see how mind mapping can be used within insurance, or when you would use it?
Oh, yes, definitely you can. When it comes to mind mapping, how with my customer? You have to have different personas, isn't it? So if the way you would potentially think about someone, a 19-year-old getting a car insurance is different from a 62-year-old. You know how the adrenaline is all when you are younger and all of that, right? So there's higher risk of an accident than someone that is younger. So also how customers think and relate with systems as well. So if I'm doing a nice shiny new journey that I want them to be able to use on their system, on their mobile phone, or like a mobile version, right? I need to think about who are the people that will be using these applications, basically. So if and I need to put consideration into those as well. So this is where we are now thinking about accessibility requirements. You're thinking about how would they interact. If this insurance is tailored at this particular audience, we need to then ensure that, how do they think, basically. So yes, very, very applicable and important.
And when faced with like conflicting priorities or requirements from like underwriting, claims, compliance,
Yeah.
how do you approach that situation?
So when there is stakeholder engagement, you have to always think about, and whenever there's stakeholder conflict, right? I personally always ensure that I basically facilitate a session, a workshop, where we all talk about our requirements and act like big boys and girls, basically. And then I'm listening to everybody, but ultimately it is the scope of the project and the business benefits, right? So even though there are conflicting requirements, we need to be able to understand where there's negotiation and where we can meet ourselves in the middle, and where we are then thinking about it from a business benefit, not by my process or by what's it called. Because the only reason why the sponsor has basically agreed and signed off the budget is because there's a business benefit attached to it. It might not necessarily be financial, right? So not necessarily that all of the benefits are financial, but we need to think about it from there. What exactly are we trying to achieve? The business benefit are we trying to derive at? What's the strategic view of it, right? So we're then thinking about that, and then we're ensuring that we are getting our stakeholders aligned. So it's not about them, it's about the business benefit. And then we are pulling that. And then wherever you need to compromise by negotiating, then please do that and work with the both of them to resolve it. Because eventually they understand that the only reason why they're there is because of the business benefit. And that's why the project is in. So sometimes you might not be able to cover it in your project. And you'd have to let them know that this is my scope of my project, right? Yes, we want to do X, Y, Z, but my project is only covering this. Maybe we can check another project that can deliver that. So not to worry, I will pass on your requirements to the policy admin project. I would ensure that this is raised up and give them that. This is where stakeholder management skills come in. You assure them, make them understand that I hear you, I'm listening to you. What you're saying makes sense. In fact, if I was the one, I would sign it off, but my project cannot afford to cover that, basically. But, I would see what I can do to push it where relevant. I hope that answers that question.
Thank you. And there's one here in the chat. So it's from Anonymous, so I'm not really sure what they mean, but they said, what have you mentioned as underwriting in your slides? So don't know if they mean the definition of underwriting or the process.
Underwriting is basically the team of underwriters, the people that write the risk. They assess the risk and write the risk. That is the risk assessment itself before it becomes a policy. So you are saying, oh, for instance, you want to buy a car insurance, you go in and pour your details in, right? It then goes to an underwriting engine, even though you can't say it, right? There's an underwriting engine that checks all of the data and says, okay, where is this located? Oh, this is in here. This is here. this is your age. It looks at the parameters, predefined business rules and parameters that you've included, that's been included, and also your data that you've captured, that's been captured as well. Runs that through that engine. If this is X, then this is it. If this and this is X is Y, then this is it. So it goes through that. That's the underwriting. You don't see that, but that's what happens. So if you are now happy, they then give you that and they say, okay, this is what your premium is going to look like. This is what what you were paying if you want to pay at once or you want to pay every month. And as soon as you agree to that, you make your payment, it then becomes a policy. And that's what the policy administration then kicks in.
Whoever wrote that question, if that doesn't clarify things, please let us know in the chat. And Risi be sure to clarify further. I'm just scrolling through the chat just to see, did I miss any questions?
So, like a couple of people put their hands up, except if they've dropped those, I'm not sure.
Yeah, if anyone would like to ask their question live, guys, you can raise your hand and we can allow you to talk. Okay, there's someone there.
Please go ahead. I think she's raised her hand.
Go ahead, Ola.
You're muted if you're speaking.
Oh, sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, thank you for the lecture. It's been very, very informative. I work in the insurance sector as well. So the only thing I wanted to check is in terms of the BA career progression, you didn't mention business architecture. So I just wanted to check whether, should a senior BA be considering that within that space, or what was your recommendation?
Definitely. And I think I mentioned that in one of my posts on LinkedIn, right? The reason why I didn't include that in here because that is no longer business analysis, isn't it? That's another part.
That's correct. That's correct. Yeah.
Yes, as a business analyst, we already have that foundational knowledge. So if you go on my LinkedIn, you'll be able to see that there in terms of how can we move from what's required from a business architecture point of view. So you are now thinking about from a strategic point of view, looking at it holistically from not just the business processes, you're looking at the people, the process, the architecture, the landscape, and then all of that basically from a the target operating model. We've now taken another step. You're now the one advising business on this is how it should, not just by your project, but holistically, basically. I hope that makes sense. So that is something that, yes, you can.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, it does make sense.
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
Is there any other questions, guys? You want to put it into the chat or if you want to raise your hands? We have 3 minutes left.
Okay. So it looks like we were able to cover as much as we wanted to cover today.
Yeah, and everyone found the value. I'm just reading the comments from the chat. So they took useful information from the session, great presentation. Yeah, a lot of the same comments, but thanks so much, Risi, for taking the time even to speak for IAB Ireland. It's a privilege to have you as the first speaker for a day in the life of a BA. And it's been really, really interesting to see what it's like working in insurance as a BA from a BA perspective, and even the challenges that you face, the processes that you use, the tasks that you do, and any of the tools or techniques, and as well, just talking about like stakeholder management and the usual BA things that we do on a given day. And I really like the slide where you had like your an example of your schedule on a given day, because that was really cool to see, because you don't normally see that across LinkedIn. But hoping everyone found the session really well. Thanks so much for staying with us for the duration of the event. And we will be having another BA day, or a BA day, a day in the BA. Oh my God, a day in the life of a BA. But this next session will be based off law enforcement. So we will have Mark Keats, who's from New Zealand, and that will be on the 12th of August. So if you guys want to register for that event, please reach out. It is on the IAB Ireland website, and I'll share it when I'm sharing the event details. But we can leave it there. And a big thank you to Risi again for taking the time to present. It's been really, really insightful. So thanks so much, everyone, and we can leave it there.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Bye, guys.